Welcome back. And as you know, quotes are about to weep again. And today, we're bringing you legislative quotes because who I have with me in the studio today is the government. And I confess, is one of the people I had in mind to bring within the first 3 months. He's in a list of 3 people that I wanted to bring within the first 3 months. And today, I'm glad that he's here. Honorable Israel James.
Thank you.
I was stressed the honorable part of that thing. Now let's get to know him a little. Honorable Israel James is the country director for Project Sprint. Israel James is a trailblazing nation builder from Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria. He's a graduate of agricultural economics from the University of Port Harcourt. He's driven by a deep passion for impact and transformative leadership. A former aspirant for the Akwa Ibom State House of Assembly in 2023, Israel currently serves as a legislative assistant at the National Assembly, where he contributes to governance and policy development. As country director of Project Sprint, a youth-led civil society organization, he champions youth inclusion in democracy and policy advocacy. He has worked with notable lawmakers, including Senator Ned Nwoko, Honorable Mukta Shagaya, Honorable Olamijuwolo Alao-Akala, Honorable Clement Jimbo, on key national issues such as data protection, GMO regulation, tax reforms, and technology transfer. Passionate, visionary, and purpose-driven, Israel James continues to inspire a new generation of leaders through his commitment to building stronger communities and shaping a better future for Nigeria. That is the Honorable Israel James. So you know that quotes are about to
Quotes will cry.
you get. Israel, thank you for coming out. Though.
Thank you for having me too.
Firstly, for your openness. When I reached out and told you about this, you did not put me through any kind of stress. I don't take that for granted. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
And like we were checking a few minutes ago, Nigeria is more than 90% of Nigerians are below the age of 50.
Yes.
So clearly you are below the age of 50 now.
Yes,
I'll place you somewhere in your 30s or early 40s. You get, maybe you might not want to tell us the exact figure, but you can see for yourself that he's a young man. And this young man has done and is doing all these things we talked about. You can check him out. We'll put his social handles in the comment section. Israel, obviously you are inspired by youth should do things for the country.
Yes.
But what triggered that inspiration? At what point? What experience or set of experiences can you say inspired you to first move yourself in this direction, and then now you're advocating for youth to also step into that direction?
To answer your question, what inspired me first and what made me call for others to join? I've always had the passion to to go into government or to find out what's happening from government. The drive is very, it goes way back from when I was a child. So I'm from Akwa Ibom State, and I grew up in Port Harcourt. When I was born here and raised here. And then one of those times we traveled to Akwa Ibom State for a visit, Christmas. It's traditional Nigerian situation. You go home for Christmas and all. So one of those times I went home, and then my mom took us to our village, like my village, not just Akwa Ibom State, my village, man. And when we were approaching, there was something different. The roads were bad, and the paths were looking very shabby, bushes and all, no light and everything, which was different from the reality we were living in Port Harcourt at the time. Yeah, so I asked the question, what happened? Why is our village different from Port Harcourt where we stayed? And then they're like, it's a village now. I say, but why don't we have road? So the answer they gave to me then was that it's because the government is not doing the road. So that has stuck in my head. And over time, I had a dad who was my father who is still alive is very, very much invested in national issues. We 9 o'clock news, you know, the tan tan tan. Those sessions never missed us. It was a ritual in our home. And so when he comes back and he's turning 9 o'clock news, he'll call you to come and sit down and watch with him. So you had to. It wasn't enjoyable then. You understand? Those were those were not favorite childhood memories, I would say. But he would make you sit down and watch, and I built a love for current affairs as a result of that. So I got to know things about who was the president, the vice president, the senate president, and all of those things. So if you ask me, I could answer to you off of my head. Sometimes he wouldn't even be around at home on those 9 o'clock news, but you had to sit down and watch that news, because when he comes back, he will ask you, okay, I was not there yesterday's news. Give me a rundown of the important things that were discussed. So if you don't answer, I leave you to the prayers of God for them. So that was how I got interested in politics, and then I've always felt that concern to know who were my leaders, what was happening in the state, what was happening in the community, what was happening in the country, and I've always wanted to know how I could be a part of that. And as I got to learn better, I started understanding the role I could play. I ran for office in 2023. Lost my election primaries at the polls, and then one of the things I experienced was that the crop of people I met in the political system as at then were very, very much older people. Now, in this case, were people above that 50 years gap. And so now the population demographics that we've been reading shows that people below 50 are like 90%. But the people above 50 are the ones that are even dictating things that are happening in the political system. So you see that divide, and that led to me starting up what we do at Project Sprint and a couple of other youth-led organizations that I'm a part of, to call for increased youth participation in the political system, not only so that I can have more young people there, but because we reflect a larger portion of the population and we have to put our voice on issues that matter, not regular trends that you see every day on social media and all of those. Those conversations are very infinitesimal, and they don't really they don't contribute to the grand scheme of things. So having young people participate in democratic conversations and political conversations like this is just the one way I believe we can shape our democratic system to work better for us.
You've put your hand in a couple of waters as far as this policy thing is concerned. For instance, I know when you were championing the GMO stuff some time ago, you and a couple of professors from. Tell us a little about that.
A tool of Western institutions and globalists that they want to use in controlling our food sovereignty and food supply. So I'll paint it as easy as possible. Normally, if you, as a child, they used to say if you lick orange and the seed enters your stomach, it will germinate on your head. Yes. What that means is that the seeds that are in crops have the ability to reproduce itself. Yeah. And that's how God designed seeds to be. You know, they are self-generating. But these GMO seeds are not self-generating. So if I give you GMO seeds today and you plant it and you get a crop, let's say I give you GMO orange, like we're using orange, and you plant orange and you get an orange. If there's going to be a seed inside that orange, that seed cannot cultivate. And even if it does, it will not produce good yield any longer. So you have to mostly depend on the supply of that seed. Now, that's already a problem, first of all, which means you have to depend on whoever is selling the seed to you. Secondly, the technology for this seed is being patented. Now, when you know what patent is I did this and I have collected a license to own this property, this intellectual property. Now, if anybody does it, I can sue the person to court. So now we have now seen a system where they have created something that was natural and abundant in nature. It is now owned by particular corporations or persons or institutions. So now they own it, and you cannot reproduce something similar again by yourself. That's another part of it. Then thirdly, if you cultivate GMOs here on this crop and on this plot, let's say there's a small plot here, and somebody has a natural seed close by, these GMOs will cross-pollinate your natural seed or attack the other ones, thereby running the natural seeds extinct. So you now have a situation whereby you no longer have natural seeds anymore. So those are the problems we're having with GMOs. Now, what I'm saying to you sounds like a science or something that or like a conspiracy theory or something, but if you pick up your phones or if your viewers pick up their phones, they can read on genetically modified organisms and their impacts in several countries around the world. There are countries currently that don't have enough seeds to practice agriculture, yes, in their countries. Example, I'll give you some African countries like Zimbabwe and South Africa. They don't have seeds. They have to depend on their capitalists who is selling these seeds at exorbitant prices to them. Now, that is going to create a very, very serious dimension of poverty because most of the people in the rural communities in this country are farmers and they depend on that natural seed to be able to feed their family and contribute to the food baskets in the country. Now, when you run those farmers out of business where they now have to be buying those seeds or possibly don't even have enough money to buy the seed because this person is going to peg this seed at a price that they cannot afford, we now face a very serious food security crisis. So that called for that was what led me to pick up the issue and speak on the subject matter. And first, when I did a little bit of research into it, I figured out that the issue of GMOs is not only is it Western, it's not only is it imposed on us by Western institutions, but also they are also taking advantage of our government institutions. So they are lobbying persons within the government institutions, and they are the ones propagating and promoting GMOs in the country. So for you, that is now a warfare. So which means for you to defeat that idea, you have to first defeat the people that are propagating the idea in the country. And so that means you have to first defeat the country's institution. And how do you do that? We have to now relay and fall back to the strongest institution in the country, which is our educational institutions. So we started working with subject matter professionals, and they spoke better on the topic. They made mention of the reasons why we shouldn't do this, and we collected a bulk of all those informations. We took it to the National Assembly, which is where policies are being discussed. We went to the chairman of the House Committee on Agriculture Production and Services, Honorable Bello Kauje. The deputy chairman is from Rivers State here too, Kelechi Wogugu. And so we worked closely with the committee, advising them and painting with clear brushes the facts behind genetically modified organisms. And so that was what led to the motion by Honorable Mukta Shagaya, which has called for the ban on the commercialization of GMOs in Nigeria. And so that was one success we were able to achieve.
Where is it now, that motion?
It has scaled, it has passed.
Scaled.
Yes.
But has it been signed? I don't think.
Yes. It's a motion. It has been adopted by the House.
Okay.
So motions
they're still deliberating before.
Now, the next phase for it would be a full-scale policy framework, which would be a bill to completely ban GMOs.
But then when you think about it, there are some arguments on GMOs. On the vague side, modified, the word modified. And people will start arguing.
I was at a conference in Port Harcourt, I think that was last month, Make in Nigeria, and one of the people who have been sponsored to propagate genetically modified organism was there. So unfortunately for him, he didn't know that Israel James was going to be at the conference soon. And he started off his conversation by promoting GMOs. He was painting an image of himself to be a scientist, a crop scientist that day. And I told him, sir, you already, your profile was read in this program that you're an extension officer, which means you don't know the science behind what you're talking about. Your job is to push the message, not to tell us about the science. And people who know about the science are telling you that science is rogue science. Now, do you know that the science behind genetically modified organisms is called gene editing? And on the list of weapons of mass destruction, gene editing is number one. Which means you shouldn't even be using that to tamper with food, because someone can. There is a theory that somebody can code those seeds to to attack specific regions in your or specific regions in the world, and they can just tailor it to black people and say reduce their immune system, and it would make us susceptible to diseases. Now, if you look at our DNA, we have like the strongest immune system in the world as far as the world is concerned. So that makes us not to become like a readily available market to Western medicine, which doesn't cure anything but just helps you manage the situation and keeps you a customer, you know. Yeah. So it's more like a gain of function, and it's a cyclic system.
We on fire.
So
I like the fire.
so yeah, so these are the things about the GMO. So when he was talking about it at that conference, and I wasn't the guest speaker, but I was a special guest, and I was sitting at the front. So you know, as a special guest, you get the opportunity to ask questions. So I asked for the mic, and I presented questions to him. And since he couldn't answer the question, the next thing he asked me was that, where is your own farm? And that was when he shot himself in the field. I'm an agricultural student, and I studied. I've been, as my whole 5 years in school was that I was in the farm. Wow. I own my own farm too, and I told him I have a farm, and so he didn't have any more arguments to make. And that goes to say so much about the people that push this science. They don't really know much about the science. It's just copy and paste, garbage in, garbage out. And then they are the people who we call the former president Musa Yar'Adua, I think I quoted him today on a live session. He defined them as unscrupulous elements that are trying to destabilize the nation. So those are the examples of the people we see that try to, shoot Nigeria in the feet. They are the enemies within. And we must also know that, yes, as much as we have enemies outside the country, we have enemies within.
Yes. And like I was driving at, people use the genetically modified, the word modified, to make arguments, because everything that's been used for evil was passed at some point with good intentions.
Yes.
They say stuff like,
so when it comes to genetically modified, one of the things they try to correlate with GMOs is hybridization. Now, as far back in agriculture, when we were in secondary school, they taught us about natural systems of hybridization, where we have grafting, budding. You can even plant two seeds of different varieties together, and they will grow up, matching each other's species. That is species development. So that's like saying a man and a woman give birth to a child. That's hybridization. Now, gene editing is a system that causes species barrier break. So they can take out a gene from a bacteria and infuse it in crops. Now,
with the best of intentions.
Yeah, no, not even with the best of intentions, first of all. Now, in quote, best of intention, but you are not God. Do you understand? You're not God. God that kept bacteria outside of plants knows what he's doing. And now some of these crops, pests cannot eat those crops. Worms don't eat it. Ants don't eat it. And those are the oldest form. No, and those insects are one of the oldest form of life. Some of those insects have existed before humans. So if they know better, their senses are better. You understand? So if you put a food here now, and maggot does not, there's no, after a long period of time, maggot does not attack it, no fly, no insect is coming to eat it. It's the same thing as putting a table in this place, which means that food is inanimate. And that has led to the decrease in nutritional value in the foods that we eat, because some of those crops don't have nutritional value. Do you understand? And then they will now encourage you to now say that, oh, Nigerian foods don't have nutrition, so we now have to depend on multivitamins. Now, what are the source for multivitamins? Crude oil. They are petroleum products. You can check it. Check the fine print. What are the sources for what they use in producing those what they call multivitamins? They are just petroleum products. So you see, these are the issues that we were facing. So hybridization is different from GMOs. Yes, hybridization is a very safe and sustainable practice of agriculture that has existed long before science became documented, and it still continues.
Now, I dare you all, those of you who prefer exotic foods, you've heard a lot that Israel has said. Oppose him, challenge him, and I'm available. If your points are strong enough and you're willing to nominate somebody to come and argue against Israel, It's fine. You're open to something like that, right?
Yeah, I would like to debate with somebody who
Come up and debate, because why you're preferring foreign foods and foreign all the
because
rubbish.
I saw a post one time where somebody said, if no be fake life, why you the chop pizza instead of okpa? You understand?
But once chop your pizza. Well, even the people who make pizza tell you that these things in excesses are
Yes.
too much. But well, I'll leave it at that. Argue more in the comments. Let's talk about the tax. Recently, I invited a friend of mine, Ferdinand. He was a guest on this show,
Yes.
but we couldn't delve into the tax side of the thing because time constraint. I told him I will invite him again, and then he said he would do his homework. But you now, from the creator's point of view, because lawyers are the interpreters, legislators are the creators. You get, so from the creator's point of view, throw in what should Nigerians know? Because a lot of people are ignorant about the tax. They just know tax this, tax, waiting be tax, waiting consign me and tax.
So the problem of Nigerians is that, first of all, they are very, very reactive people. They are not proactive. So the conversation about tax reform had existed for over a year. And now it's a bill is a proposal in its nature. A bill is, this is what I want to do for the country. Now for the country. Now you can come in and say, okay, change this part, change that part, change this part. Now I want to give you an example of what's being reactive and proactive is. Now when that bill was being discussed, when it was not yet law, there was a part of it that talked about revenue allocation and distribution. And then the people who were going to be affected by that was the governors, subnationals. So it was going to put more of economic responsibility on the subnationals. But guess what? All the governors, they kicked against it. They didn't want to, they said, allow us to stay lazy. That was the perfect definition of it. My governor included too. Yes. So they didn't want to take the responsibility for, economically developing the subnationals, which is supposed to be so. The subnationals are supposed to be economically stronger than the national. They are supposed to only contribute a portion of what they generate to the national. But we live in a system whereby most subnationals are very, very, what would I say to it? They are very, very economically irresponsible. Some of them don't even generate up to 20% of what other states generate. And they depend on the federal government.
Some of them.
In fact, majority of them.
The distance between
Yes.
top five and the rest.
And the rest is very, very, it's like day and night. Yes, that's the difference. So they depend on the federal government's distribution system, for them to survive. So which means all I just have to do is get elected as a governor and then go and rest. Meanwhile, if we had succeeded in getting them to pass that particular 60-20-20 sharing formula that the president had proposed, most people will run away from running for governorship offices.
What was the essence of the 60-20-20?
Now, the essence is that 60% has to come, you have to generate income from the state. Yeah. Now, 60% is what goes to you. Okay. So let's say as River State now, that is an oil producing state, is generating 100 million naira a month. 60% of that 100 million goes to River State. 20% goes to the federal government, and then 20% goes to what they would use to support other states to develop themselves. Okay. Now we've been living on economic ICU as long as this country is concerned. A few states are fighting for the survival of other states. And I believe that if for the last 25 years, we've enjoyed sustainable democracy. And that has been able to, I mean, if you've raised the child for more than 27 or 25 years, I think you should be able to, be able to afford simple things. Like a girl will say, dinner, supper, all those things. The child has you should have you understand? So, but some of those states came up and they advocated and they pushed for change of it. Now, that was just one aspect of the tax bill. Now, there were other aspects that was going to influence manufacturing, personal income tax, value-added tax. Now, let's come back to personal income tax, which is PAT, and VAT, which is value-added tax, that was going to influence the average citizen, which is you and I. Personal income tax is what they are going to tax from what you earn. Value-added tax is the tax you pay from what you spend. You see, if you buy airtime today, there's a certain amount of tax that is deducted. Good. Yes, that's the amount of tax we settle that. But as a country, if you look at our GDP reality as a country right now, we should be looking at 3.5 to only either 3.5 to 5% in value added tax, if at all. We should be discussing about value added tax. The federal government had proposed about 14 point something percent in VAT. But as an organization, Project Sprint, we had a national youth dialogue on tax reforms. We partnered with the chairman of the House Committee on Youth in Parliament, where most of the lawmakers in that committee were below 40 years. Yeah. And so we discussed with them, we had the dialogue, we engaged them, and we're able to submit that 14 point something percent in VAT was outrageous. Although we're calling for 3.5 to 5%, like I mentioned, which sound realistic based on our GDP reality as a country where we are currently. But we settled at back and forth, we settled at 7.5% currently, which is the VAT reality. And then we believe that the conversation still continues. Of course. So because now the conversation about tax is going to be a very loud conversation from next year, January 1st. So at first I don't want to say yes. More Nigerians are going to react. Do you understand? More Nigerians are going to react. And not that I celebrate in entirety what the tax reform stands for, but I believe it is going to do something that is very important to our democracy as a country. Which is it is going to increase the number of people that participate in democratic and political processes.
Frustration.
Yes, because by the time government is deducting from the money you are working hard for, you are now going to be forced to ask them, what are you using my money to do?
Because recently somebody asked a certain somebody in the government about a certain road that is being constructed and it became a drama.
So now you are going to have to put ourselves in that position where we now call on government that, okay, you are taxing me, so what are you doing with that taxes? Now, people that are going to be having that conversations are the people that have not voted for a very long time now, for more than 20 years, which is the middle class.
What did I get up to 5 voters in this office? I threatened I was going to sack them. Just randomly.
If you look at the middle class, which is the ones who are educated, those who have gone through tertiary institutions, and even those that are working, the working class, the ratio of the working class that participate in political and democratic processes to the ratio of people that are living in rural communities with little to no education that votes is very high. So if you balance it, people that live in rural communities participate more than those who are well educated, which has now produced a system of kakistocracy. Now, kakistocracy is a system whereby the worst of us rules the best of us.
Yes.
Now, that is only happening because the people who are it is the gullible people that are now participating in the electoral process. So by the time those master's degree holders, those PhD holders are receiving tax deduction of almost 20%, or depending on their tax bracket, they will quickly collect. Hey, how do they used to do that voters card again? Please, I want to get I want to get my own. I want to be in a political party system. So they will now, when they now start participating, they will now elect the best of us who will now make the right decisions for us.
Well, I like the direction that you took this talk because personally, I don't like the tax realities as expressed in that law. Although right now I cannot do something directly about it. There are some inverse actions I can take. But now you just gave me another perspective that I will allow myself to watch the realities that will bring about, especially moving towards 2027. Because I keep telling people that bad leaders are elected mostly by electorates that refuse to vote.
Yes.
Because check turnout in the last election versus people who did not vote.
Let me just give you a simple statistics that is going to annoy you today. So, over 70% of the Nigerian population consists of people that are below the age of 35. Now, from 18, which is the visible age to vote, to 35 or 40, the number of internet users that make up that bracket is over 40 million people.
This was the lowest in the recent times.
No, this election had a higher turnout than most elections.
This election,
yes,
we go argue till tomorrow. We go argue till tomorrow.
But what I'm trying to point to is that inside that 40 million internet users that are always on Twitter, creating a trend. Now that's a pool of voters that has yet not been tapped out, and they are the ones that complain the most.
And they come and ask those of us who voted and did not get our realities.
Yes.
They ask us for money.
Uh-huh.
And then I tell them,
So you see, you when you have over like 30 to 40 million people who can get voters card and influence the outcome of an election, not doing anything.
well, but we cannot exhaust this conversation, Sha.
No, we
And
cannot.
I'll reserve your next set of comments for the person who will dare to come and argue against you. Well, I'm really grateful that you came out. Before I let you go, I usually ask this question, and then you tell me your quote for the day. So the question I usually ask is, you go back 15 years in time, and you meet Israel James as our 2010. I don't know what Israel James was doing as our 2010, but you have 15 years of experience now that guy does not have.
Yeah.
What would you advise him? So that maybe before he gets to 2025, he would have surpassed you. He would have achieved some of your 2030 goals by 2025.
Function forward, control what you can. That would be my advice.
Function forward control. That maybe that is the James will not understand. This one knows what you're saying.
You will control, you will understand that. And that's one of the things I say to most young people I work with. Function forward, control what you can.
So is that your quote for the day?
Yes.
Function forward, control what you.
Because there's always going to be obstacles to limit you and all challenges and all of that. So you just have to function forward. If you were running and you got hit down, crawl forward. If you were crawling and you got beaten down, roll forward.
You do.
Keep moving forward. You know, the concept behind that quote is that no matter what, there's always room for improvement. Yeah. And so no matter the environment you find yourself, function forward, control what you can.
Don't be surprised if you see Governor Israel James or Senator. I don't think he likes the executive arm of
I
government.
don't like executive arm
because
of government.
when anybody does anything, the governor or the president takes the blame. Just like you're blaming your governor now, you don't know he's your senator. And we even ask now, write the name of your senator, write your senatorial district and the name of your senator in the comments if you know, without consulting Google. Let's start there.
They will obviously do that.
Let's start there. So, okay, let's say a senator is James sometime in the future. But if you still become president, it will not be bad though.
No,
I like to work in your cabinet as Minister for Agriculture.
Leave it Senate President, not President.
Senate President. So that's his James, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you for coming.
It's a pleasure.
I'll see you in the next one.
I look forward to the debate. I'm open to that debate.
I'll get somebody who can dare to debate it. All right, if you're not subscribed, this is the time where. But I don't understand how you've been watching all this while and you're still not subscribed. God help you. Click the subscribe button.